Hello there, and welcome back to the Chaps Guide, the channel where we talk about men's style, self-development and personal grooming. And today, well, it's a fragrance review because these are really important to me. I love fragrance, and if you visit this channel, you'll hear me extolling the virtues of using a good quality cologne as part of your overall style package, because it makes a big difference. The way that we interact with other people is a very sensory experience, and it's not just the eyeballs and the way that we speak, it's also the nose, the way that we smell, because the olfactory senses is a really big thing about making that all-important first impression. And I've really been looking forward to today, because a lot of the fragrances I talk about just recently have been kind of a little bit in the past. I've really enjoyed exploring those fragrances of the 1980s, the 1990s, but today I'm going way back to 1912, when this fragrance first made its appearance, and that's Eucris by George F. Trumper, the gentleman's perfumier, barber, shaving accoutrement sales place in London. And this is a truly spectacular fragrance. Now, I don't like all of the fragrances that I share here with you guys. Some I've tested and given away, but this has been an absolute find. I've only recently come to enjoy Eucris, and let's talk about the whole fragrance and then we'll get to the smelling bit. So, let's talk about Trumpers for a start. George Trumper. George Trumper, as I say, has been around for quite some time, since 1875, as a perfumier barber right in the heart of London. It's got a couple of different shops in London, and they're barbers. You can go into that shop. Yeah, there's one just off, the one I always associate with is the one just off Jermyn Street in London. It's just off the main street in Jermyn Street, a couple of doors down from, the big names like Taylor's of Old Bond Street, John Lobb Shoemakers, Dunhill, all of those great places. You just turn down the street and there it is, George Trumper's. And it's quite an old-fashioned wood-panelled place. You go in and your initial thought is a little bit intimidated. Even the sales agents in there are wearing three-piece suits, and you're struck with a sense of tradition and heritage, which is rare, even in the middle of London. And then you get this fine, amalgam of senses, of smells, which hit you when you go in there. And it's actually a barber shop. You can have your hair cut there, but they're also selling these spectacular barber shop accessories. And the one I'm talking about today, the one I really want to talk to, is the fragrance. Although Eucris actually is a whole range of curated products, shave cream, shave soap and things like that, but it's the fragrance which is the important thing for me today. And today I'm going to be reviewing for you the Eucris Eau De Parfum. So George Trumper, been around since 1875, as I say, fantastic place, and over the years they've introduced a number of fine fragrances to their products. One of my all-time favourites is actually their Spanish leather range. Absolutely love it in shaving cream and in the eau de toilette, which they also sell. Now, this Eucris has been around, as I say, since 1912 in its eau de toilette form, but it was only brought out in this eau de parfum version within the last few years, maybe 3 or 4 years or so. And so this is quite rare. It's quite powerful. It's a very strong fragrance, and it's become quite well known over the last sort of few years, well, not last few years, for quite a number of decades now, is because this is one of the few fragrances, products, that was actually name-checked in an Ian Fleming James Bond book. Now, this Eucris was actually mentioned on Her Majesty's Secret Service, in a scene in the book, of course, where Bond goes into the bathroom of the book's antagonist, and in the bathroom he recognises some products and he names those products. He names Pear's soap, and Eucris, the fragrance by George Trumper. So it's got that association with the most stylish of all men, everybody's favourite secret agent, 007 James Bond. Not that it markets itself particularly around that, but it is well known for that, and the aficionados will refer to Eucris as one of the Bond fragrances. So shall we give it a try? Shall we give it a try? And then we'll talk about it. I've been using this pretty much non-stop for the last month. Little squirt on the back of the hand. Let that go to work for a moment and cook off. And I'll tell you what I think of it. Oh, well, it is certainly what they refer to as a chypre fragrance, which is a woody, floral, musky fragrance, and it is strong. This is a very powerful fragrance, as one might expect. It's an Eau De Parfum, and as you'll be aware, Eau De Parfum is right there at the top of active concentrations, so potent, very much so, and we'll talk about its potency and its wake and projection in a moment. But this is really a strong powerhouse fragrance. And the accords which will hit you on the nose, there's a black currant which runs throughout the range, perhaps more so in the Eau de Toilette, but certainly in this one. But there's a herbiness as well, cumin, coriander, black pepper. You know, you get a sense of very different fragrances to the vast majority of men's fragrances at the head. In the mid notes of this, you get more florality. There's a bit of jasmine and lily of the valley. You definitely sense those flower accords in the middle. And oh, a bee there, end of the autumn, still kicking around. And in the base notes, where it dries down to eventually, not yet, you'll get sandalwood, musk, and an oak moss. Very, very masculine fragrance, there is no doubt. Extremely masculine fragrance. And when I've been using this for a while, but when it gets down to its base notes, it is quite a pleasant but very, very manly fragrance. Powerhouse, super strong, and it'll last on you all day long. But what do I think of this fragrance? Where does it actually fit in for me? Well, I think of this fragrance as very different to almost everything else in my collection. I like things in the summer which are citrusy and light and clean smelling, and in the wintertime I quite like musky fragrances with leather and wood. This is very much at the top end of that leather, wood, no, not leather, but it's certainly a powerful, strong fragrance which is unique, and when you smell this on somebody, you will know that they're wearing Eucris. It puts me immediately in mind of a bygone era, and it's not at all what you might expect. I think of it as quite a dour fragrance. It's quite, I'm going to use the word villainous, brutal, menacing, a dark, looming essence. It is something there which, there's something of the night about this fragrance, and for that reason I actually find it quite attractive, because I don't generally have many of these sort of fragrances in my collection. And if I was to put in mind of who might wear this fragrance, not naming somebody individually, but, you know, I'm thinking with the Bond association, well, it's ideal, you know, for those Bond villains, those great villains like, you know, the very Ernst Stavros Blofeld, you know, the one with the cat, and all of those great villains of the bygone era, because it smells villainous, if there is such a sense to smell. So let's talk more about this fragrance and where I think it fits. What's the seasons for this? Well, this is a strong, powerful fragrance, and as such I think it's definitely reserved for the winter and the cooler months, the autumn and the winter. I wouldn't even say spring, because spring for me is a time of rebirth and new life. This, not really in that category. This is the darkness and the night, which is something I find bizarrely enjoyable. So seasonally, definitely the winter. An age range, I would say definitely over 40. I would be very surprised to see younger men wearing this. It's not, although it's brutal, but it's not in that fluffy, cheerful, brutal style, which younger men tend to favour, you know, with the strong, sharper fragrances. This is much different to that. So yeah, over 40 and right up to, you know, the end of your life, you could quite easily wear this. The time of day, because of its unusual nature, you could probably wear it any time of day, to be honest, but its dark, ominous presence would suggest it might be favoured in the nighttime or the darker hours, as its nature, even its marketing is, you know, very much as I perceive the fragrance to be. So very much an evening fragrance. A special occasion fragrance, Possibly, if you wanted to make yourself known with a very strong signature fragrance, this could be worn on a special occasion. Not for your wedding day, I would suggest. It's too dark for that. Perhaps for lighter occasions, probably not. But those more somber special occasions, possibly. Wear it to a funeral and it's the perfect fragrance. Yeah, sounds weird, but I think that's where this guy is cut for. Is it masculine? Super masculine. This is an extremely brooding masculine fragrance, which would be perfect for the alpha male who intends to take over the world. So perfect for that sort of situation. Super masculine. I wouldn't think this could never be worn in a unisex situation, I would suggest. What's its projection and its weight like? Well, powerful. This is a strong fragrance, which it lasts a long time as well. I mean, I applied this and you would guarantee 6 to 8 hours of active fragrance on your skin. The first quarter of that, the first few hours, strong. It's a strong smelling fragrance, so definitely good projection. Walk past somebody and it does leave a wake. You'll have people going, good God, what's that? It definitely has that behind it. So classy, strong fragrance. What sort of third-party comments do you get? Fear, absolute fear. No, I'm only joking. I mean, this is, yes, people will notice this, and I suggest they will either like it or loathe it. It's quite unusual. It's not your everybody loves it sort of fragrance like many of these masculine ones are in the modern era. This will have people divided between I like it and I loathe it. So I like it, clearly, but I don't think everybody would feel the same. My wife was on the fence, so hasn't decided yet. I think it might grow on you the more you wear it and smell it, such as its unusual essence. So bear that in mind. The first time you smell it, you might retract in fear, but actually give it another go. It's got something else for you. What about the bottle and the whole marketing side of it? Well, the bottle is very sort of retro. It's very much of its era, I think. Remember, this was brought out in 1912, and it's a black glass bottle with George Trumper in raised lettering down one side, and down the other its address. It's a very glamorous address. 9 Curzon Street, Mayfair, W1, one of the best postcodes in the best cities in the world. And the Eucris, it just brings to life that dark, brooding element of this fragrance. We open the bottle, or we take the top off rather, and it's a thin tin top with something of a coronet or vice-regal covering on the top there. And let's have a look at that atomizer. Good atomizer, good spread. That's important because this is a strong, potent fragrance. You wouldn't want this firing a concentrated jet where it would be a bit overpowering. Good to have that atomization. So yeah, nice little bottle. 50 millilitres is the only size that the Eau De Parfum is available in. The Eau De Toilette is available in 100 millilitres. So a little bit more larger on the Eau De Toilette. In the little bottle, in the box rather, that it comes in, mirrors the bottle really. Again, got that slightly retro brooding element. As I say, a whole host of other products available across the range. The only one I've invested in, and I had this first before the Eau De Parfum, was actually the shave cream. And the shave cream, exactly the same marketing, everything looks the same across this range. Its fragrance is enchanting. I love the fragrance of Eucris shave cream. It is possibly my all-time favorite shave cream when it comes to fragrance. And being George Trumper, the performance of the cream is without parallel, other than possibly similar products from Taylor of Old Bond Street and D.R. Harris. But this is superb. There's a fabulous lather, and it's a pleasure to shave in it. And then with that scent, which strongly is reminiscent of the fragrance, the cologne, layers perfectly when you're applying the cologne afterwards. So lovely, lovely stuff. £19.90 or a tub of 200 millilitres. So not bad value on the shave cream, to be honest. The Eau De Parfum, £75 for 50 millilitres. So it's actually quite expensive. The Eau De Toilette, much more reasonably priced. I forget the exact price of that, but it's much more proportionately priced for much larger, obviously slightly diluted fragrance, but still, you know, not outrageously expensive in the grand scheme of things. Clearly there are many more fragrances which are vastly more expensive than Eucris, but in a world where many of these fragrances start to smell the same, from a value point of view, 75 quid for 50 millilitres is expensive, but then for something like this, which is actually quite special and quite unique, and you're not going to smell this every 5 minutes, I think it's a worthy investment. And it's very strong. You only need 2 squirts of this on a day, and it's going to be with you for 6 to 8 hours on your skin. That actually, when it comes to a price per wear proposition, comes back to you quite nicely, so not a bad thing. So, to sum up in a paragraph, George Trumper's Eucris is a dour, brooding, villainous, frightening fragrance, which I could easily be imagining being worn by, you know, the classic Bond villains of a bygone era, by men in later middle age perhaps, who want to make a statement with their cologne, who don't want to be part of the herd, who are not afraid of having something of the night about the way they smell. There we go. I commend it to you. It will be in my collection going forward. It's a keeper, and yeah, it's a rare find that I've thoroughly enjoyed. So I hope you have enjoyed this review today of George Trumper Eucris. If you have, I would invite you to kindly give me a thumbs up to show me that you've enjoyed this video, and also think about subscribing to the Chaps Guide channel while you're there. That way you won't miss any of our future material, and you will help the channel grow. Become part of our Happy Chaps community here, and please drop me some comments or some thoughts and observations in the comments section below. I truly enjoy interacting with you all. And I look forward to seeing you again in our next video very soon. Until then, please take care, look after yourselves, and we'll see you again soon at the Chaps Guide.